on up. Welcome him on.
I guess we're good. Good. All right. So before we get started, when I was preparing this, okay, yeah. How's this, better? All right. So as I was getting the presentation together, of course I'm going to be talking about my ADD, but my ADD played a part, as Rick will attest, because I got my slides this morning about 7 or so, and it was like 4 emails. Almost done. But things keep getting in the way. What I want to do is talk about my ADD, and my ADD is not everybody's ADD. There's all sorts of different types out there, but I'm just going to share with you a little bit of my experience with it. So go ahead. So what I would like you to do is imagine that you can see something very clearly. It's there, it's far away, but you can see it, and the path to get there is perfectly clear. All you have to do is put one step in front of the other, one foot in front of the other, until you get to it. The problem, though, is the more you try to get to it, the harder you try to reach it, the further away you seem to be. You can still see it, it's still clear, and it's not that hard. This is one of the most frustrating things about ADD, is that any grown-up, you can throw a rock, you can hit somebody who could do these things that you're trying to do, but it's hard to get to them. It's hard to maintain the focus to get down the road to get to what you're trying to do, and then there's all these distractions come up. And they're all interesting, and they're all engaging, and every single one of them is cool and interesting in its own way. It's one of the things with ADD is the impulsivity of it makes every new thing cool and interesting. The problem, though, is you've got all these cool, interesting things, you've got this thing that you're trying to get to, and then you realize, holy crap, I'm not supposed to be doing any of these things, I've got work to do. So I've got this spreadsheet, which isn't the least bit interesting, but I have to do it, but I've got all these other things coming up and getting in the way. And all of these things are sort of the shiny things that I think of, and trying to get to it, that's the fog, that's the exhaustion, because you go through this all the time. Every minute of every hour of every damn day is this way. And it wears you down. And the knowledge that it's going to be that way for the next 30 plus years wears you down too. So it's all because of my brain, which is a good brain. I like my brain, I like the way I am, and I like all of the things it lets me do. But it's not the typical brain. And this is the problem, is when an atypical brain tries to do typical things in a typical fashion, it just doesn't work very well. This sort of collection of patterns, I think, is a good representation of some of the challenges. To develop certain life skills, to develop certain good habits, to do a lot of jobs, you have to do the same sort of thing over and over and over to form a pattern, whether it's filling out paperwork or any number of different things. My brain doesn't work in patterns, it works more like this. It's cool, it's interesting, it's multicolored, it's all over the damn place, and there's great stuff there. But in a black and white patterned world, or job, or whatever it may be, this isn't a good fit. Now this, sort of we're transitioning from one set of colors to another. This spectrum here is just because I want to make it clear, ADD is a spectrum disorder. It's not black and white, it's not you have it or you don't. Everybody has trouble getting things done, and everybody is late sometimes, and everybody puts things off, but it's when it's at one extreme that it really becomes sort of a chronic challenge. My big challenge is productivity. Getting things done. It takes me, I think, twice the effort, twice the time to do half as much. So I'm 1/8 as productive as the normal person. I have a friend who's here tonight who is incredibly productive. I'm in awe of his ability to have an idea one day and then do something about it the next day and then have it done the day after that. If productivity were a superpower, he would be like maybe those 4 or 5 guys there on the end. Whereas for me, productivity is not where I'm strongest. It's ideas and observations and all sorts of things like that. And I've got, these aren't my notebooks, but I've got a bunch of notebooks, and I write down every idea. And I've got, I mean, great big, holy, there are children present, but great big ideas. And this is the challenge for me, is I don't have a spark of creativity. I don't have an idea. I'll have a bunch of ideas, and they're all amazing in my head. They're amazing. And each new one makes the old one seem a lot less interesting. So I'm constantly bouncing from one idea to the next, to the next, to the next, and not getting any of them done. And this sort of back and forth between being excited about the new thing and disappointed and discouraged because I didn't do anything about the last thing, it's difficult and it's a challenge and it's soul-crushing at times. There are two sort of side effects of ADD a lot of times. One are anger issues and the other is depression issues. And depression got me, I'm 48 years old, so about 8 years ago. And it got me in a big way, and it was a very dark time for a very long time. But after a while, you know, as long as things don't get too bad, after a while the brain just gets tired of feeling that certain way, and you start to come out of it, and I did. I came out of it, and life is beautiful, and everything's wonderful, and the big thing for me, and the reason I like this image is, there's a path that I can clearly see, and it leads to a beautiful place, but the area along the path is beautiful too. And since I can't stay on a path to save my life, that's nice. It has led me to a beautiful, this is my fiance and her daughter. Her daughter's 3, almost 4, and her brain and my brain are really in sync. We get along great. The imagination, the play, all that is wonderful. My fiance, sort of a type A personality, very productive, very much checklist, let's do this, do that, do that. And there has been some friction, as I'll have a great idea and I'll tell her about this idea, and the next day she looks it up online and she's sending me information, and she's like, all right, let's get this done, let's do this, it's a great idea. And then she comes home that night and I'm like, oh, I have another great idea. She's very frustrated by that, but we're working things out. Now, one of the things that I've tried to do, one of the things I've learned to do is to stop beating my head against the wall and do the things that are already a good fit for my brain. I'm trying to get back into game design, which is something I did all the time as a kid, because the combination of a wide variety of things, a room for creative growth, all that sort of stuff, but also the need for structure and the need for rules is a good fit for me. This image that I'm closing with, it's a great image because it's a big, random mess, but there's structure within it. There's certain numbers of dice, the dice have certain outcomes, and what I found for me is that if I can bounce around within a clearly defined set of outcomes, that works for me. So I bounce from project to project, but if I bounce between the same 5 projects or so, I move forward on each of them, and so far it's working. Thank you.
Any questions for Steve? Thank you very much. Excellent. That's all the presenters we have tonight.